According to Mythos, 100% of you are subscribed. Good job! Boy oh boy, has it been a while. Almost a whole year since I've last uploaded a video, which is kind of insane, but I'm back. And this time I do plan to stay, because I'm very excited for everything that it is coming into Honkai Star Rail, as well as just being able to explore a lot of things that I wasn't able to yap about because I was missing. There's lore for the curious, lore for the equations, just generally speaking, lore about the game itself that I want to get into throughout these next few days. I've actually planned a lot of content to be released in bulk throughout this entire week, maybe the second one as well. We're still figuring it out at the moment of me recording this, but I'm honestly just very hyper about this. I'm very much like full of energy, full of motivation again, which is so freaking cool. And I just want to say I'm glad to be back, and let's head on with the video. As always, at the beginning of every equation, you'll be able to see the entire lore, so if you wish to pause, you can read it yourself. And then, following it up, I'll be going through it and reading it and giving my final thoughts regarding any extra input or any additional comments I want to give. So yeah, let us go through the new equations that released in the Protean Hero for the destruction and the harmony. Furiae Philosopher. I was born from an indigo stone, bearing the breath of flames. Furnace and magma have malleated in my form, while glory and gunsmoke have draped me in battle garments. My arms can crush throats, and my stone tablets shatter skulls. The strong will devour the weak. The victors write the history. These are the fundamental laws of our world. I preach this doctrine to mortals, urging them to lay down their hoes and take up weapons. And I shall personally embody the truth of strife. When Nikador raises his spear, I will march with the army, raise iron hooves towards distant horizons, and spread a madness that masquerades as philosophy. I do like this concept of this. This is one of like Nikador's like soldiers, the guy that literally makes everybody stronger for a little bit. So getting to see more of their philosophy as beings created by Nikador, because these are the Stonekin, right? The Titankin. So I don't know, it's a little bit fascinating, but I do like how dedicated they are to following the cause. War Scribes. In Castrum Kremnos, where military might is prioritized above all, there's a unique group of scholars. They wield pens instead of swords, but still receive high respect from the Kremnoans. They are the War Scribes. They lay foot on every blood-soaked battlefield where the chariots have been, carrying scrolls that merely repeat victory and overwhelming victory. Not because they value brevity, but because they would waste no time or parchment on easy victories. They enjoy every disadvantageous battle, carving lessons from cadaverous failures and analyzing lessons learned. And when their enemies finally kneel, they casually scribe overwhelming victory again. The Grove of Epiphany refuses to acknowledge them as scholars, for as they only serve wars. The scribes couldn't care less, for they much prefer to call themselves warriors. I genuinely like this one, because it really does reflect the philosophy that people from Castrum Kremnos have in the story, because they're very proud. So recording like an easy victory, I don't feel like would be something they would be able to boast about with confidence. They want to be able to showcase their highest victories, the biggest praise. So I just really love this one. Madness Malady. Heard of the malady named Heartless Malaria? It consumed the prosperous city of Radero and left it in shambles. First, citizens were simply dazed, forgetting their way home. Doctors were clueless to the cause and could only send their staff to take care of the ill. But the strange ailment started to spread like wildfire, its symptoms growing more severe. Parents forgot their children's faces. Chancellors drew blanks on their king's name. That was until a roving medic found the cause. Mosquitoes. These mosquitoes did not feed on blood, but they had a strong inclination for humankind's memories. But it was all too late. People here were no more than the walking dead. The great physician could only sigh and set the mosquitoes ablaze, reducing them to ash along with the entire city. You know, if I didn't hate mosquitoes before, I definitely despise them now. And I will admit, mosquitoes that feed on memories is incredibly horrifying. And, just like, screw those annoying bugs. Masked Stranger. Stay away from the mountains west of Paphos, unless you wish to experience a jest before death. A strange visitor has claimed the paths there, promising to bring fair judgment to all who pass. He calls himself Thanatos' messenger, yet shows no fear of death. With Talanton's scale in hand, he delivers verdicts as fickle as the weather. If he stops you, you must place your treasured possession on the scales. Then, you may leave alive if it weighs less than 3 feathers. Sometimes, though, he'll pull out a coin, suggesting another round. Once you meet him, your fate lies in destiny's hands. Until brave souls defeated him and removed his mask, only to find beneath it another mask, frozen forever. Okay, this is one of the moments where, like, pardon my ignorance, I thought Talanton's scales were a location, not something you could actually grasp and bring along with you. If somebody can correct me in the comments, that would be greatly appreciated. Berserker. Broken spears mark the end of an unjust war. The fallen warrior, his invincible body was drained of all blood. Did he recall galloping along the frontiers with his brothers as they shared their ideals? Back then, he was a true warrior, the pride and joy of all Kremnoans. Did he remember how he was unwilling to die with glory, even as he carried grievous wounds? Choosing instead to offer his ravaged flesh to the Mad King in exchange for the power to fight endlessly. Blinded by blood, he was oblivious to his brethren's pointless deaths. Manipulated by cruelty, his hands showed no mercy, even to children. His brother mercifully ended this series of mistakes. As the Berserker fell, his soul finally returned home. I like this equation a lot because it does really reflect like the Kremnoan mentality. The fact that this guy was willing to trade what's essentially like their mind for massive power to keep on fighting over and over again because he just didn't want to die. It is a little bit interesting though that I like how they say here he was unwilling to die with glory, when the whole concept of Kremnoans, like their whole saying is, better to die in glory than live with shame. So that's like, you know, a little like confusing, but it's also really cool that there is this concept. I don't know, I just like how it embodies the Kremnoan mentality as a whole though, even if it is not fully following it. Legless Iron Pigeon. Before Aquila's 1,000 eyes were closed, there was a kind of bird made of iron. They were the creations of skyfolk, forged in steel, yet no legs to stand on. They roamed the skies for all eternity. Born as the war machine, they were never allowed to touch the ground. With these footless iron doves, the skyfolk conquered the skies, only to turn their spears against each other. The iron doves were divided between the blazing sun and the cloudy rain, charging and pecking at each other like mortal enemies, falling from the sky like rain of iron. Only when they touched the earth did these footless birds finally rest. And for the first time, they caught the scent of green grass. This is an interesting one because the first thought that came into my mind when I read this equation was the sleepless owl curio, which I thought did not have legs, but it does. However, this would be a version of that curio that don't have legs because they are essentially forced to always be active, which is kind of horrifying, but at the same time, given the tension that, you know, the both sides of Aquila's followers had, it makes sense why they wanted to be restless and at each other's throats 24/7. Still really messed up for the pigeons though. Gate of Yactor. Some guard the gates, while others become the gates themselves. When the armies of strife trampled through the gates of Janus, burning the temple to ashes, Yactor wasn't there. As a warrior, he failed his comrades. As a priest, he failed to stop the sacrilege. Yet, as the defeated, he still had a chance for revenge. When the Holy City's allied forces set out to quell the strife, he volunteered to join. With the axe of Janus, he cleaved open the Century Gate, using his own being as the keystone, forging a passage for the army of vengeance. Covering 1,000 miles in a flash, the warriors descended like a divine strike, cutting down the enemy host. The gate of Yactor stood fast, enduring the passage of all who crossed its thresholds, until another strife swept it into ruin. You know, I was half wondering why we had not heard of this within the main Amphoria storyline, because they mentioned how this gate was used to essentially quell down the strife. And, you know, when I finished reading it, it makes sense. It got absolutely destroyed. So there's no reason for it to be mentioned at any point within the story. It sucks, but honestly, it is a cool concept. And I love the levels of spite and vengeance that this individual reached in order to literally become the gate itself. So, yep, that has been every single equation that has come out since the release of Protean Hero. Which does remind me, if you would like to know more about all these equations, there is a playlist with all the equations from the Human Comedy as well as the previous Protean Hero ones that you're free to check out whenever possible. If you like this sort of content, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, it really helps out a lot. And yeah, honestly, a lot of these were pretty fascinating, even if a bit disturbing. Like the madness malady being, created by mosquitoes and like essentially leveling a whole civilization. Pretty concerning. The Legless Iron Pigeon was kind of just sad. I mean, like, it gives the whole context of how both factions of the followers of Aquila hated each other to the point that they made a device that would never rest, so they would be forever in combat. That one seemed pretty cool, and I did like the fact that they added lore for named enemies within Stariel, because we see that from the Furiae Philosopher. Just being able to sort of see more of the perspective of a Titankin was pretty freaking cool. The fact that, because they follow Nikador, they're like, oh, my philosophy is beating the hell out of you until you understand. I found it to be, yep, like horrifying, but also very on brand for them, right? So, yeah, I don't know, I really liked going again through all these pieces of content, reading them out loud, and learning. Because at the end of the day, I kind of like, I made this channel for the sake of learning because it's fun to know more about the game. Even if it's not really that relevant, it's cool for world building, and I love that. Anyways, to sort of start wrapping up the video, I do want to say that I want to apologize for being gone for so long. I've been doing marketing classes, and that has genuinely drained so much time out of me because I've never done marketing in my life before. I suddenly decided to do a career change, and with that came the fact that I had to lock in. Otherwise, I would be wasting the money and other shenanigans. That is not to say that I'm not having fun. Honestly, doing marketing has like opened my brain, so to speak, more towards YouTube, even though I wasn't actively doing things in regards to content. I do feel like I have a better understanding of things and how I want to push forward with the channel. So I'm very excited for things to come in the future. With all of that being said though, thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. I hope you have a great day, night, morning, or whatever time zone applies to you at the current moment of watching this video. Bye-bye.